Chapter 22. Settling in.
Miss, you need to get up.
What's going on?
I don't know, miss, but there's a large commotion out in the middle of town.
It was dark, and I was groggy, and I tried to reach for my pip-boar. Onion's words seemed just as hazy as my thoughts were right now. A commotion? I was finally able to land my paw on the wrist-mounted computer, and I checked the time. 2:15 in the morning? Fuck, can't I go back to sleep? I stumbled out of my bed as I latched the pip-boar to my wrist. I tried to remember where the light switch was when I started hearing a commotion outside.
It's the robot!
Robot? What were they? Fuck. Those bastard raiders must have had a remote activator. I had to do something. I think I recalled deactivating the weapon systems, but the core. There was no way to completely disable it without taking the entire thing apart. I needed rest. I told myself I'd do it in the morning. Fuck me. I should never have left that fucking robot alone until I was certain it was safe. I rushed out of the room, not bothering to try to find my gun. It was useless before and it'll be useless now. Especially without bats. After this, I really need to figure out how to replace that serum. I heard Onion call after me, but there was no time for his safety messages. If that killer machine was active again, it could destroy everything and everyone here. I raced past the market stalls and residential areas towards the main gate where I remembered that they had left the robot. There were people in a panic, running each way, most of them crowded near some gate, some bickering and others yelling. There were so many voices at once. I was unable to make out much of what they were saying. Some were shouting traitor while others were screaming, "You've doomed us all!" I think I heard my name, or at least the word savior or hero here and there. Even when racing through in a panic down the streets, those titles felt foreign to me. All the more when I had, multiple times, told myself that that's what I was striving for. In the middle of the crowd, I could see the robot. It didn't look as if it was trying to attack, but it was swiveling around back and forth at random. Was it short-circuiting? If I could just get onto it and connect my pip-boar, I could see what's wrong. I pushed through the crowd and they noticed me. They started forming an opening for me to pass. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I swore they were all staring at me. Well, they were probably waiting for me to come save the day again. "Clear the way, people!" I recognized the mayor's voice as I finally breached the crowd. She was standing there with two large wolves on either side of her. One of them had a fox grasped between his arms, and considering what was going on, the other one was standing there rather calmly. I wanted to ask what the hell was going on, but I was distracted by the mayor's silken nightgown. Fuck, Olivia, now is not the time. Although I thought I saw her blushing when I looked at her. I pushed that from my head and put my attention on the now. Stand back, everyone! The arms were thankfully still in their rest mode, most likely still disabled from my hack before. I caught the crowd's attention, as if the mayor herself gave the order. Everyone quieted down and moved a few feet back. I ran around the robot until I could get a clear view of the back where the access port was, and I jumped. I don't know how long I was asleep, but it was definitely long enough to make my jump feel natural again, and not just forced by my adrenaline. Although at this moment, I'm sure that was helping. I went to open the access port, but it had already been opened. The lights were dim, but I noticed there was something lodged in the port. Was that a pip-boar connector? I yanked it out and plugged in my own. The mayor did mention there was someone else here with a pip-boar. I'll have to ask her more about that after this is done. My heart nearly stopped as I pulled up the access program. From the look of it, someone had tried to load custom software into the machine, but it had tripped a failsafe. Unfortunately, that failsafe was directly linked to the self-destruct mechanism. Looks like the owners didn't want it to be repurposed. Fuck me, fuck them, and fuck this machine. I tried to perform a manual override, but the new code and the old code were trying to override each other and gain control. It was going to take more time than I had. I tried to purge the new code, but every time I thought I had succeeded, a part of it remained behind and replicated itself so fast that I couldn't purge it. Whoever had made this code was a coding genius. Even I haven't figured out how to create self-replicating code, but then again I really have had no need for it. Suddenly the robot started to warm up. Oh, that is not good. I checked the machine's status. Weapons offline, mobility offline, navigation offline, core critical. I tried to find the internal cooling system, bring it back down to temperature, buy some time, but it had already been vented. There were two options. Manually eject the core and get it out of the town, or try to activate the navigation software and send the robot as far away as possible. I tried the latter first, since I doubt there was enough time for the former. This fucking code is really starting to make me mad. Every time I think I have the navigation on, this foreign code seems to assimilate my own, causing the resident code to attack us both. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted to chat with the code creator or punch him in the face. Maybe both. Now there's only one thing to do. Everyone! I'm unable to get this thing under control and its core is about to go critical. We need to get it as far away from here as possible.
Well, what are you gonna do about it?
What am I... Just because I say... Wait a second. What am I... Water! If I can manage to get the core detached from the robot and cool it down enough, that should buy me the time I need to purge all the code from the system and manually override it. The problem was I had no idea where the core was. The robot was heating up enough to potentially locate it. But if it was anything like the fission core unit in the Burrow, it had to be removed a certain way in order to prevent a radiation purge. I tried to find a schematic for it, but no luck. The Burrow databases didn't have blueprints for pre-war technology like this. Wait a second. I have an idea. I need a volunteer, preferably one that's fast. I'll be right back, and get that gate open! The commotion started up again, with people starting to question me as I ran past them back to the workshop. I knew what I had to do, but I hope it would work. And more so that they would trust me with it. All right, you heard her, James. You're our fastest. Get that gate open. Everyone else, find shelter. The mayor started to throw orders around, and that caused the commotion to stop as they followed her every command. I was new here, and despite having saved them yesterday, I had a long way to go to earn the trust that she instilled in them. If it all goes well, I hope to stick around long enough to earn that kind of trust. I picked up speed as I ran back through the town to my residence. I remembered there was a whole stack of blueprints there, and I had started looking through them as I was trying to force myself to sleep. A little light reading always helped me sleep. I recall seeing a few robot schematics among them. There was one that should help. When I got to the workshop, Onion was holding something and trying to get my attention. I told him it was an emergency and I didn't have time for whatever nonsense he was trying to tell me. I rummaged through the blueprints that had already been tossed around the room. I'm not a very organized rabbit, but after frantically searching through my mess, I think I need to change that. I finally found exactly what I needed, and I ran back towards the Maniac machine. I was very glad that, unlike me, this town was fairly clear of debris, because I used the time running back to locate where the core access port was and how to open it. It seemed much simpler than I thought, honestly. But it was definitely something I didn't want to try while I was under attack. The crowd had diminished greatly as everyone was seeking shelter in case my mission fell through. The thought of failure was starting to creep up into my conscience, but I did my best to smack it away. These people were counting on me. I had to be the savior that Mayor Swift made me out to be. If I failed... You have your runner. James, you do everything she tells you. Yes, Mayor. I would love to talk pleasantries with you, but I need you to... I slid under the robot as I cut myself off. The access to the power core was near the head of the robot, but in order to open it manually, I needed to activate 3 release mechanisms. The first was under the robot near the back leg. I turned on my Pip-Boy's light and I found it right where the blueprint said it would be. I turned the lever and slid it a few inches and then pushed it back in. Then I moved towards the front of the robot where the next one was hidden underneath its thick armor plating. Thankfully, activating the first switch seemed to release the plate, allowing me to activate the mechanism underneath. I jumped down and moved towards the back where I started to scurry up it. The robot was finished with its spasms. The manual release had initiated a movement override system. The final switch was actually the housing for the core. I twisted it halfway and pulled with all my might. It moved a few inches into the robot before ejecting itself, sending it and me crashing to the ground. I cradled it as I fell, the heat from it becoming unbearable. Thankfully, the housing had saved me from a massive dose of radiation. Carry this. Hurry and take it to the pools around back. Throw it in the deepest one. I got it from there. You want me to what? Before I could repeat myself, the mayor gave him a stern look that wiped away any other remarks he may have had. He grabbed it and bolted through the main gate. While he was buying me time, I jumped up and plugged myself into the back of the robot. I bought myself 10-15 minutes at the most, but it was better than the seconds we had before. I wasted no time launching Hacktron and working on the code. While this self-replicating code was very effective, I had a few tricks up my sleeve as well. I started by not trying to fight the foreign code, but rather used it to hide my own as I located the back door to the factory programming. The entire system was so busy fighting the alien code that it didn't even notice me sneaking in the back. Once I was in, it was as if I just went from swimming upstream to just going with the natural flow. It only took me a few seconds to find the factory override, and I began the code purge. To be safe, I dumped everything, leaving this machine no more than a pile of scrap. To be honest, it left me kinda saddened to see all that unexplored code go to waste, but it beat dying. I slowly slid down the robot until I was back on the ground. I found myself panting, not only from the running, but from the aftershock of the stress leaving me. The core and the robot were linked via a wireless signal that prevented tampering, but since I purged the entire system, I pretty much overrided the self-destruct, causing the core to safely purge. The water may not have been drinkable, but after this I would avoid it altogether. It was the best I could do. My dear, your best just saved this entire town from a nuclear explosion twice. I'd say your best was better than we had all had hoped. The mayor came up and knelt beside me as she spoke, and put her hoof on my shoulder and whispered in my ear. Although, it seems in your haste you showed everyone, a bit more than you intended. What do you mean?
Miss?
Onion darted up to the mayor and I with my jumpsuit in his extended claw. Is that my... I felt my face get very hot as I looked down and realized that this entire time I had been parading around in nothing but my underwear. I jumped up, grabbed the suit from Onion, and ran behind the now immobilized machine as I put it on. The rush of my little adventure was now being replaced by the shame and humiliation. After this, I don't think I could face any of the residents for a while. They saw everything.
I tried to tell you, miss.
Onion shouted from the other side of the robot before I could hear him in a much lower tone.
I did try to tell you.
I just put my face into my paws. Why me? I had managed to sneak back to my place without making eye contact with anyone. I felt too ashamed to face them. I just wanted to go and hide for the rest of the night. The mayor tried to get me to do something, but I told her in the morning. I just wanted to wallow in my shame. I didn't really say that. At least, I don't think I did. I really hope I didn't. Onion was quiet the rest of the night. Either he was just as embarrassed as I was, or he knew I was in one of those don't talk to me moods. I've been having a lot of those recently, although for reasons much more understandable. I'm so very glad I didn't choose tonight to be sleeping in the nude. I crashed onto my bed still in my jumpsuit, and I vowed never to take it off again as I screamed into my pillow. I don't remember falling asleep, but I woke up feeling much better. I checked my Pip-Boy and saw that it was a little after 9 in the morning. Due to this town being inside a large building, it was just as dark as it was during the night. I found the light switch and had to cover my eyes as the ceiling light powered on. Things were scattered everywhere from my haste at finding the blueprints last night. But I had plenty of time to straighten it up. Right now I wanted to know what that box was on the workbench. I don't remember that.
You're up, miss. Did you sleep well?
Yeah. What's that?
Mayor Swift stopped by this morning, but I told her you were still sleeping, miss. I said I could wake you, but she told me to let you sleep. She said that once you're awake, she wanted you to meet her behind the medical office. She also wanted you to open this gift from her prior to leaving.
Gift? For me? I had no idea what it could be. A small rumble in my stomach made me hope it was food. The box was big, but very flat. Looked like an oversized book. It didn't have a whole lot of weight to it, nor did it make any noises when I shook it. A small red ribbon held the entire thing together. As I was carefully undoing the ribbon, I saw a small piece of folded paper tied to it. I unfolded it and read its contents. Dear Miss Springs, once again I would like to thank you for your admirable work saving this town. I have a very important meeting that I want you to join me in, but first stop by Olive's garden. I inform the owner that you are to be well fed once you're up for the day. Once you're content, please meet me at the holding cells behind the medical facility. Gratefully yours, Mayor Jezebel Swift. Holding cells? What possible reason could she want me to meet her there? I tried to think of any potential reason, but my stomach kept vying for my attention. I haven't eaten since I arrived here yesterday afternoon. Food first, then the mayor. I went back to pull the ribbon off the box. Its contents was not what I was expecting. Inside were 2 articles of clothing, both very neatly folded. The first one was a jumpsuit, similar to the ones in the Burrows, but it was a dark green accented with stripes of white along the seams. On the front in bold yellow was the word Hope, while on the back it read Springs. How did she have time to make this? The jumpsuit was crisp and clean like it was just made. I slipped out of my old jumpsuit and tried this one on. It was a perfect fit. How did she know my size? Already the questions were flying through my head. I asked Onion if anyone had slipped in with a tape measure last night, but he informed me that it was quiet the rest of the evening. I turned towards the other article of clothing. This one was much different. I could feel the blood rushing to my cheeks as I pulled it out. It was a silken nightgown. The opaque black material felt wonderful. It was so smooth to the touch. I saw another slip of paper fall out as I was holding the nightgown up to me. I bent down and picked it up. It was the same hoof writing as the other one. I hope black is acceptable to you. After last night, I figured you would want something a bit less revealing to wear to bed. Unlike the formal note on the box, this one was simply signed Jezebel. My heart fluttered at the thought of her thinking of me. Ugh! I shouldn't be having these thoughts. Not only is she the mayor, but I've never felt like this around anyone of my own sex before. Of course, I really never felt like this around anyone before. It's like she's bewitching me or something. I carefully draped the nightgown on the bed before I grabbed my tool belt. I went to grab my gun, but I changed my mind. I didn't want to give the wrong impression to anyone. Onion, I'm gonna go get some food, then meet the mayor. Do you mind straightening up in here? I want to get to know this place a bit better before you start wandering around. Whoever tried to take control of that robot might still be here, and I don't want to risk the same on you.
As you wish, miss. I should probably recharge. I spent the entire night alert. Afraid that if I were to power down, something bad would happen and I couldn't be around to warn you.
I turned and kissed him on the shell. I appreciate that. You rest now. If I need anything, I'll contact you through my Pip-Boar. I opened the door as I saw the town was busy. Mammals were traveling back and forth between the market, their homes, or whatever else they did on a daily basis. I closed the door behind me as I followed the delicious smells coming from the only restaurant in town, Olive's Garden. Now that I had been rested, I was able to take in my surroundings much better. The eatery was a simple shack with a large window in front. Mammals were lined up placing their orders at the window before taking a seat at the table set up in front. While waiting in line, I noticed 2 other shacks nearby that looked similar to this one. They both looked closed, and while one had no sign on it, the other had what looked like an unlit neon sign that spelled out Nightlife. While this is the best food in town, Nightlife had the best drinks. It's a shame the owner got trapped outside when the siege started. Everyone's hoping he's safe and returns. After what we've been through, we all need a few good drinks. Behind me, a giraffe had bent down his neck close to me and started telling me about all the food they had. Olive's Garden had been around the longest, and while the original owner, Olive, had long since passed away, her daughter Petunia had kept up the tradition of serving the best food in the wasteland. The other spot had been vacant for years. Every time a chef tried to settle down and open a restaurant here, they were unable to compete with Olive's garden, even though neither Olive or Petunia ever tried to make it a competition. In fact, Petunia once had tried to get the last owner to create a combination menu. I finally got to the front of the line and was greeted by a rather petite porcupine. She had a simple shirt on with an overly large apron tied around her. I never met a porcupine before, but her quills didn't seem to be as long as I thought they would be. Her short stature made her seem cute, but more in an adorable sense.
Well, if it isn't the hero of hope. Mayor said you'd be coming around this morning. What can I get you?
Honestly, anything. The food I had last night was amazing. Best I've ever eaten. Now that I'm actually well rested, I'm sure I'll enjoy it even better.
Oh, glad to hear it. How about house special? Marcy, one special.
From where I was standing, the shack started to seem much larger as I saw movement behind the counter. I saw the occasional pans and food moving around, but I couldn't make out who or what this Marcy was. But if he was responsible for last night's food as well, I knew I'd enjoy it.
Now, you sit down, sugar. I'll have it out to you in a jiffy.
I thanked her and went to sit at one of the tables. People around me kept giving me sideways glances, but I couldn't tell if it was from me saving them or if it was from me parading around in my bare necessities. I gave a weak smile to a few before trying to hide myself in my paws. I felt the chair next to me move as someone sat down.
Good morning, sweetie. Hope you like my gifts.
I jolted upright.
Mayor, I thought I was going to meet you after breakfast.
Well, there's some business that I need to conduct, but I would like you to be there with me when it happens. I was actually on my way to your place to see if you were awake yet, and I saw you sit down, so I figured I'd come and join you. A couple walked by, both cheetahs, and I saw the male give me a look. His companion must have noticed too, because she swatted him with a bag she was carrying. Everyone keeps staring. Most of them are still grateful for you helping, and due to previous circumstances, this is the first time most of them have seen you as yourself, not some kind of heroic warrior. She leaned in, her breath tickling my ear. And many of them also remember last night's show. Don't worry, sweetie. I told them that if anyone says anything unbefitting a lady like you, that they would be on latrine duty for a month. My face felt warm again. I knew I would never live that down. From now on, I sleep fully dressed. Thank you for everything. The food, the shelter. I've not been here for more than a day, and you've shown me so much kindness. More than I've ever received, apart from my mother. Your mother, she was special to you. I can tell. She said I was the best thing that ever happened to her. The depths of the burrow where very few ever got along. She was my only light that kept me going. Even after her death, her memories kept me going, helping to shape me into who I am today. She would be proud. I felt a tear starting to form, but I tried to subtly wipe it away as the food arrived. 5 of the largest carrots I'd ever seen lined the plate, glistening in the artificial light. They smelled sweet, the steam still billowing off them as I cut a slice off with the side of my fork and took a taste. It was amazing. A sweet glaze brought out the buttery taste of the carrots. It was so perfectly cooked that it melted in my mouth. I took another bite and another, and before I knew it, I was devouring the whole thing. Petunia came back with a tall glass of carrot juice. It tasted fresher than anything I'd ever drank. I put my fork down. But I think the mayor could tell I wasn't quite done yet, and she simply signaled over Petunia. She will take a slice of your signature pies, too. No, I really... Trust me. If you thought that was good... A few minutes later, Petunia brought over a slice of blueberry pie that was larger than my paw. I told her I'd been fine with a small slice, but Petunia said that was a small slice. I couldn't tell if it was fresh out of the oven or simply heated up, but it had the same melt-in-your-mouth feeling that the carrots had. I could get fat eating like this and I wouldn't have cared. I can die happy now. Now, if you don't mind, let's get down to business. Follow me. Once I finished my food, we got up and I followed her towards the front of the town where the medical facility was located. But I didn't pay much attention before, most likely since I had been bleeding to death from a bullet wound to the leg. There was a large wall connected to the side of the building, all the way back towards the main city walls. A single solid metal door was the only passage through it. The two wolves from last night were standing on either side of the door. In front of them were two mammals, a very frantic-looking rabbit and a fox who, after he took one look at me, seemed to shrink behind the rabbit. Holly, I've already told you, we are keeping Nathan here until we can get this whole situation settled. You should take Marcus and head back while Miss Springs and I talk with him. I promise you, we will not harm him, but things could have been far worse due to Nathan's negligence if it weren't for Miss Springs. Unlike the rest of the town, the mayor's aura didn't seem to faze the rabbit named Holly. She walked right up to the mayor with a very serious look on her face. If anything happens to him... As I told you, Holly, nothing will. We all know that Nathan's curiosity gets the better of him. But sneaking out in the middle of the night right after a siege has gotten people a little anxious. Especially when it involved that robot. We just need to settle the air before I have more people trying to kick you three out. Or worse. Holly still showed her seriousness, even as she backed away. That was one girl I didn't want to mess with in a fight. While the mayor gave off an aura that made her very appealing and charismatic, the rabbit seemed to exude an aura that said, "You better not mess with my family or it'll be hell to pay." The two of them finally backed down and started to walk away. The fox moved as if to keep Holly between himself and me, while she gave me a look that, honestly, I had no idea what that look was. I'm sorry about that. Marcus and his brother have been trapped here like so many others after the attacks. I think everyone is still on edge. So, this Nathan, he's responsible for the fiasco last night? I'm afraid so. Like I said, he's a very curious creature. But that curiosity has always gotten him into trouble. But nothing like this. He's a good kid. They all are. But the rest of the town is starting to talk. They arrived shortly before the Berserk King's siege, and some of them think that they were spies. What do you think? That they were simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like I said, they're good kids, and I'm a very good judge of character. I could have sworn she winked at me as she emphasized the very. I was also sure that I was blushing again. One of the guards unlocked the door as we moved through. They shut the door behind us as I heard a locking noise. The lights in this area were very dim, but I could make out 6 prison cells, not dissimilar to the ones in the Burrow. All but one were empty. As we moved in front of the single occupied cell, I saw a russet brown furred fox dressed in a simple shirt and jeans. He was sitting there, his head bowed sullenly. But one thing stood out over everything else. There on his left forearm was a device that matched my own. He was wearing a pip-boar. Nathan Valiant, meet Olivia Springs. Something tells me you two have a lot to talk about.